The Beverly Council on Aging welcomes you to our program, Livin' the Good Life, designed to explore our beautiful city and the world around us.
Welcome to Livin' the Good Life. Our guest today is John Keough, modern-day Batman who comes to the rescue whenever we're in trouble. John, could you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. Louise, thanks very much for having me here. My name is John Keough. I'm a paramedic with Northeast Regional Ambulance. We're the 911 emergency ambulance provider for the city of Beverly, and we've been here probably for about 8 years, going on our 9th year. So my role is in the office, but I'm also a staff and field paramedic with there, so I'll be in the community as well.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I was wondering about some of everyday situations. I had a circumstance one time where I tripped on the rug in front of my couch, and I felt like I went airborne, just kind of flying across the room, landed in the hall, missed the corner by a couple of inches, I think, but I was fine. I got up and rolled up the rug and took it to the trash.
That was a good idea.
Yeah, but I was wondering now, in that kind of a situation, if I had hit the corner and was knocked out, what would the scenario be?
Sure, that's a good question, and you actually bring up two very good points, which we could talk about. One would be fall prevention and what to expect when the ambulance comes to your door. So I guess we'll talk about what to expect. So as you can see, I'm in my uniform today, so when you get to the door, you activate the 911 emergency system. You're going to get your first responders, your police, firefighters. They're going to come as well as the ambulance, and we all work together as a team, and we're very fortunate in Beverly to work together as a nice cohesive unit. We support each other in every way that we can. We have EMTs, first responders, paramedics at all levels on the fire and the police and the ambulance service as well. So if you call 911, you'll get a series of questions asked to you, like what's the problem? Where do you live? Even though they'll have that information on the computer screen, they still need to get that and confirm all that information for you.
Oh,
and
good.
As we get the call, we'll ask you more questions like, are you alert? Can you answer my questions appropriately? And we just want to kind of determine what's going on to see what resources are going to be needed for you.
Oh, good.
And then as we come, we'll actually come to your door. If the door is open, we'll let ourselves in, we'll announce, and you'll see people always in uniform. And they'll be dressed pretty much like I am with the blue pants, so either a white or a blue shirt, and they'll have their variety of bags that they'll take in there to help provide an assessment for you.
Yeah. Are people ever frightened by that?
Absolutely. One of the things that we work, that we're trying to relieve is stress, the stresses of a situation.
Sure.
Although for us, it might be the 900th time we've been to a resident for a fall, for a chest pain, or a shortness of breath. For you, it might be your first emergency.
Right.
And it's a very stressful situation, and that always compounds the illness or the injury.
Sure.
And we want to get everyone relaxed, and we want them to feel comfortable that when they're calling us, they're going to get a professional that's going to come to your door, ask you a series of questions, and get you treated and transported to the appropriate facility, wherever that may be.
Oh, good, good. And I wondered, too, about some of the things that people should be doing in the home. I know my daughter came to the house one day and said, get rid of that rug in front of the sink. And she had told me a million times to get rid of the rug in front of the couch, which I didn't do until then. You know, what are some of the things?
Well, your daughter was wise to tell you it's an ounce of prevention goes a long way. And what we have seen over the times, and we're not alone, a lot of the facilities are really focusing on that. Leahy Health is doing a big fall prevention thing as well. We see that as we get older, or just because of our medical conditions, people are on a lot of medication, so they're over-medicated. So getting the correct dosage and scheduling on your medication will help with balance. Balance and loss of balance is a big issue, and that can lead to falls. Additionally, scatter rugs. Just being aware of toys on the ground when kids or grandchildren come around, or pets, as we talked about earlier, they come around and we can step on them, or we don't want to step on them, so we'll try and avoid them, which will cause us to lose our balance. Simple things that we could do too are obviously, one, take up the scatter rugs, things on the floor. Hallways, make them wider. Use of mobility aids such as walkers or canes. No one wants to admit defeat or have it viewed as a defeat, but it's simply an aid to help us get around. Use them. Use them. Little things like getting lifts on the toilet, so it's a comfortable height, so you're not sitting in an awkward position or having you lose your balance. Big help. Grab bars on the getting into the shower seats. All these little things are readily available. I know the council, you can talk to them. They have a lot of equipment that's donated by someone like the Medicine Shop Pharmacy in town here. Is great to provide those resources and help, or get them at a really fair cost. And there's resources for folks to go around there as well, that they can get them installed safely and correctly. Yeah,
I know. I have a friend who has neuropathy, and so she can fall sometimes, but she has situations where sometimes she's walking without anything, sometimes she has a cane, sometimes she uses the walker. Now she just got a scooter, but like she's
ready to go.
Said, but like she said, I'm too young for this. I don't want people to see me with this. Is there any way to convince people that nobody thinks you're old because you're
right? And we see it. We see it in young people as well. I mean, age is irrelevant. Take age out of it. If you have a medical condition, you have a medical condition. It's blind to age. You want to be able to be safe. You don't want to have a hip fracture or an arm fracture or a knee injury as a result of a fall, or a head injury, or worse. It's potentially be a death blow from falling if you get a head injury. You don't want to have that. So don't be embarrassed if you have a walking aid, if you have a cane. Be proud of it, use it, because that's what it's there for. It's to get you out, and it gives you that freedom that no one wants to lose their freedom and be a prisoner in their own home. So if they can do that, they're going to get, the benefits of this. You're going to be out, you're probably going to be walking, which is exercise, which is great. That's going to help with balance too. My suggestion would be, if you have issues like that, utilize the resources like at the chamber, at the Council of Aging. Go down there, walk that labyrinth that they have. Take advantage of the Tai Chi classes, the balance programs that they have. All these resources that are readily available to the citizens.
Oh, great.
Use them. They're fantastic. And that
Tell
will
me
help.
a little more about the labyrinth. I'm not familiar with that.
So at the council on the second floor, or the top floor, if you're in the back parking lot, walk in the first room on the right, there's a beautiful labyrinth. I think it's a hand-painted labyrinth on the floor. And it just goes back and forth, and you walk that. It's narrow, so it works on balance, exercise, and just motion and movement, and keep your body fluid and flexible. And flexibility is very important, especially with balance.
So do you have to do the 1 foot in front of, like the?
I think you can. Yeah. I would certainly go down there and talk to Annie or Jessica, and they'll be able to get you all squared away and in service on that.
Okay.
It's a fantastic tool. I know when I go down there, I try and walk it, and I'm 39 and I'm falling all the time, just trying to do it. So maybe I should work on those and join those programs as well.
Really, sure, why not?
Absolutely.
Yep. I thought of another incident too that happened to me, but I'm sure is relevant to lots of people. Is one day during the winter, I was rushing to get out to do some shopping, and it had been icy. And it was raining a little bit, and I ran out the front door, hit a patch of ice, did a little dance, and was okay. But for many people, they can't do that little dance. And what happens if you fall, say, break a hip or something, and what's the scenario? What do you
Unfortunately, it's a common scenario. Slip and fall from the ice and weather-related emergencies are a big part of what we do. And you could expect that if, hopefully you'll have someone there to call the ambulance for you, because if you break your hip, you're on the ground. Or if you're hurt, you hurt your back. It's one of the most painful events that you're going to probably experience. So you have that, you'll hopefully have that response or that folks or someone there to help you get that response that you need. And when the ambulance comes and the fire and police come, you can expect to get a series of questions asked. They're going to probably hold your head still until they can evaluate to make sure that there's no problem with your neck or your back. If that is okay, then we have some specialized pieces of equipment, stretchers, like almost boards like that. They're called a scoop stretcher, and it comes in half. It's two halves, and we slide it underneath you, and we put it together, and then we're able to lift you up. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to move the hip or the pelvis, or we want to keep it from getting a lot of jostled around, because that's going to be painful for you. So, and then depending on what your vital signs are, what is going on with you physiologically, we're going to treat you appropriately with either pain medication or a gentle ride to the hospital. Right?
Good.
So there's, we're going to ask you a lot of questions. We're going to ask you about your medical history, medications that you're on, allergies to medications, who your doctor is, and then we're going to ask you funny questions like, when did you last eat? Not because we're curious about what you had for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's just that we need to know in case there's a surgical intervention that's going to be required. The doctors need to know that because it's going to play out with anesthesia and what they do to secure your airway.
And another thought came to me, what's the inside of the ambulance look like? Is that scary?
It can be, especially if you're strapped to a board and you feel that your freedom is being curtailed if you're just laying there, so, on your back. So if imagine just going into the doctor's office, the examination room in the emergency room, just a little bit smaller, and you'll have the same amount of lights and lots of cabinets, and you're going to be on a cot. So sitting adjacent to you is going to be the bench seat where the EMT or paramedic is going to be sitting and asking questions with all their equipment, and basically that's their place to sit while yours is on the stretcher.
And can someone go with you?
It depends on the situation. Typically, if there's a family member there, they'll end up riding up front, and the state doesn't make provisions for anyone to ride in the back but the patient and the technician. And it comes down to safety and securely fastening the passenger in the vehicle. We know from traffic data that the safest place is up front with the seatbelt on in a forward-facing position. And when you're on the ambulance, on the stretcher, you're secured with not only a foot, a knee, and a chest strap, but you also have a 5-point harness in your shoulder straps too. And then you're locked into the floor, so the stretcher doesn't move. Although when you're on it, it feels like you're going this way and that way, and it can be pretty scary. But rest assured, you're in there pretty good.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm making this kind of personal, but I do have another situation that I'd like you to talk about for other people, too. One Easter, my daughter gave me this fairly large coconut egg, and I foolishly ate just about the whole thing that evening. And then all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. And I was going, and of course getting nervous, so, and the air wouldn't come through. And then what I actually did was I sort of talked to myself and said, calm down, calm down. And eventually could breathe. But what if you were choking or something and you couldn't talk, so you can't talk on the phone?
Sure, and that too is common too. So we're very lucky to live in the area that we live in, and we have what's called as an enhanced 911 system. So if you're calling from home, and you're calling from your home phone, if you were to dial 911 and you couldn't speak for whatever reason, that the public safety answering points, which is typically the police departments, the first person that gets the call, there, you might get a recording like 911, what is your emergency? And then they'll say, if you're unable to speak, if you need ambulance, press 1, if you need fire, press 2, if you need police, press 3. Or whatever the prompt and script is.
Oh, good.
So they'll know. But we're also very lucky that if you call 911 and you don't respond, if they're not there, they're at the very minimum, you're getting a response from a police officer who's also a first responder. And they're trained in first aid, basic first responder and medical care. So at the very least, you're getting someone that can, with a radio that can dispatch other help as needed. So we're very lucky. If you call on your cell phone, you get prompted, it might go to the state police, for example, depending on where you are, and then it'll get transferred over there. But you're going to get the same kind of prompts and they'll do their best to track it down.
Yeah.
So it's a legitimate concern. The other thing too, especially in the senior population, is to use a life call button if you're at home or an assisted living facility or senior housing, wherever it may be. It doesn't matter. You have the ability to get these buttons, that's life call. So it's a life alert. The I've fallen and I can't get up. We're sending help immediately, right? So it's one of those buttons. They have all your data. They're able to tell you where you are if you're at home. They'll call the first responders, the 911 system. They'll activate it and they'll get help to you. It's a great tool, especially if you live alone, which a lot of folks do, or they have others. They might not be living alone, but a spouse may be working or otherwise not available at that time. So it's great to get it. 'Cause the sooner you get the help, the better the outcomes typically are.
Yeah, you're reminding me too. I have this little red thing that I got I think at the senior center after some lecture, and it has like what medicines I take and all that.
Sounds like you're describing the file of life.
Okay, yeah.
I love those. That is one of the most valuable tools that we see. If a file of life is nothing more than it's a document, it's a piece of paper that's pre-printed and you just fill in the blanks, your name, your address, who's your doctor, what hospital you go to, what medications, what the dose is, what the frequency that you take it is. Are you allergic to anything, things you can't take? What are your medical problems? Who can we call? Family members, friends, what your typical daily schedule might be, whatever it might be. All that information is right there. It goes into this gigantic red envelope that is magnetized. It sticks right to your refrigerator, right?
Yep.
It's perfect. We know to look for those. The police, paramedics, the firefighters, EMTs, we all look for those, especially if you can't talk for speak on your behalf. We look for that information. We have it. So we try and circulate those as multiple times as we can. Best thing to do is be diligent about updating it. Even if you can do it twice a year, great. Any information is helpful. At least it gives us a baseline of what you have going on. So we know if you have high blood pressure. We know if you can't take medications that have sulfur in it. We know if you're a patient of Dr. XYZ at facility XYZ. So we know to look for that, and it's very helpful.
Yeah. And now, if people didn't get it at the senior center or something, where can people get those?
Typically, any event that we go to, or that's sponsored by the council, or that's geared towards seniors, you will find. I know that's one of the things that we like to provide at Northeast is we like to get those out to the community. Any event usually has them. Drugstores usually have them as well. So if you were to go down to CVS, Walgreens, or a pharmacy shop, you can go down there and just ask for the medication things, and you'll find them right next. Typically, they're right by the pill dispensers out in the back, usually by the pharmacy, right around there. They're right there. And if you don't have that, just get a piece of paper, write down your medical history, and just put it on a magnet near to the refrigerator, and just put like medical information. So if you don't want to spend the money, you don't have to. Just write it all out, and keep it with you. In the event that you can't speak, it's very helpful. Very helpful.
Now, is there a difference in things people should do for their own safety if they live in a house versus living in elderly housing or an apartment or condo or something?
Sure, and I think that goes back to prevention. A lot of if you're utilizing any social service, VNA service, or like a health at home, we could talk about Leahy Health, which is Beverly Hospital. Their VNA service has a home assessment program where they'll actually come out and do that assessment and take a look at your home and help you prepare it so you're safe. They'll make suggestions like, geez, this would be a good idea to move this scatter rug over here, take this furniture, move it around, give you a little bit more mobility so you don't have such tight quarters, so you're able to swing your walker or your cane around. We'll do it as well when we get into your home. Like if we're there on a call, our crews just inherently know to ask the questions, what's going to make you safe, and that's something that we like to. It's a give back, and it's an important one because, if we can prevent you going to the hospital, then that's worth its weight in gold. Because that's the whole goal, is to make people safe.
And how many people are typically coming out on a call?
Sure. So at the very minimum, you're going to have at least 2, which is in our crew in the ambulance. You'll have either 2 EMTs or 2 paramedics, and you'll have a police officer typically, and you'll have a fire crew. And the fire crew can be anywhere from 2 to 4 folks in the engine or the ladder truck, whatever comes down, or the rescue. And so you could have anywhere from 3 to 6 or 7 people in your living room, just like that.
Oh, okay, fine. And I wonder, what's a typical day for you?
A typical day for us, well, it always involves coffee.
Oh, good.
But it varies. There is certainly a seasonality to providing emergency care. We know in the wintertime we're more prone to see flu calls, nausea, vomiting, just general sick, dehydration. In the summertime you also have that, but you also have your weather-related emergencies, the extremes, heat and cold. Those, when the weather gets better, more folks get outdoors, so you have a lot more orthopedic injuries. But you also have the orthopedic injuries in the wintertime too from the slip and fall. So it's hard to describe an actual day, but it's, our days always start the same. We come in, we do a checklist on our ambulances, we clean them, even though they're given to us clean by the crew coming off, but we always go through and wipe them down, because our goal is to have you come in with the same amount of germs or less. We don't want to give you any more. We don't want to cross-contaminate and get folks that. So we're always cleaning them. Everything's disinfected all the time.
That's good to know.
So once the ambulances are checked out, restocked, fueled, and cleaned, we're out there and we try and get into the community. And if there's like on a nice summer day on the weekend, we'll get down to Lynch Park and we'll hang out. The kids like to come down and take a look at the ambulances and stuff.
Oh, sure.
And we'll come up to the council. We'll do things. We'll just get around and whatever it might be. And then then we await the voice over the radio to tell us where we're going and who we can help.
Good. Are there other situations that people get into? I've given you my personal stuff.
Sure.
But are there other situations that I haven't thought of?
There's situations that none of us have thought of that I'm sure that one day we will get into. The variety of calls that you get from working the ambulance is limitless. Beverly's one of the communities where you'll have the extremes. For you could be working medical calls, overdose calls, trauma calls, adult trauma calls, pediatric trauma calls. There's a variety of things that go on. We're a community that's diverse. We're coastal. We have 5 train stops. There's about 2,500 people that take a train each day. We have highways that run through us. We have industry. So there's a variety of issues that we deal with on a daily basis, and we come across all kinds of bizarre situations, and then we come across just the folks that need assistance, need someone to talk to, and those are they seem the most easy calls, but they're sometimes the most challenging because we need to direct them to the resources that they need and need at the time. So there's a wide variety of calls that we can get to. So there's no real typical day. There's no real predictability to anything. We just have the seasonality, and we know that we could probably expect this. For example, on the holidays, where people eat a lot of ham, we know that respiratory problems with fluid backup in their lungs because of the sodium that they take, it's a higher likelihood of getting those types of calls. So there's little things like that, little tricks and pearls of the industry that we've learned along the way. So we're very lucky in our organization that we have some really experienced guys, and a lot of them. So we're very lucky with that. So with that experience comes the knowledge of what to predict.
What are the requirements for doing your job?
Sure.
So getting your job.
Well, there are a lot. So we have the state requirements at Northeast that we're all bound by, which is you're licensed as or certified as a paramedic, an EMT paramedic, which means that you've completed the requirements as set forth by the Department of Transportation and the state. That's about a 1,500-hour minimum training program. Then there's the testing that goes along with that. There's the clinical component where you're at the hospital. Then there's the schooling of that. Then you have the certifications that you need to go with it. So it's CPR. There's advanced cardiac life support, pediatric advanced life support, triaging, trauma surveying, all these components that go together that make up the ability, that give you the ability to get out there and provide care to the residents.
Oh.
And we're all overseen by our medical director, and we practice under their license, and we have a set of protocols that we utilize, that these protocols get us to a point, and when we get to that point, that's when we need to make the decision to call the doctor to get further orders or to just transport into the hospital. So everything's it's pretty laid out, and all you need to provide is the brain to assess and decide what exactly protocol you're going to use.
Okay, and I've pretty much, I think, asked you the questions that were really pertinent to me, but is there anything else that you would like to tell people that I haven't thought of?
I think the takeaway here is, it's always, if you think you have a problem and you need the ambulance, don't hesitate. Call. At the very least, you're going to get someone to come down and assess you. We never will tell you, no, you don't need to go to the hospital. And everyone has an emergency, and their perception of what an emergency is different for everybody. So there's no rules. Medicine is this giant gray box. That's why they call it practicing medicine. It's not perfected in any way, shape, or form. We're learning stuff every day. So I mean, if something doesn't seem right to you and you think you need help, call for help. It's as simple as that. We're here to provide a service, and we want you to feel as comfortable as you can with us, and that's important for us.
Good. You did remind me of something personal. When my mother lived with me for a while when she had gotten older, and she would often get pains in her chest, and I would drive her to the emergency room.
Right.
And the doctor said to me one day, "I don't care if you think it's gas.
Right.
Don't drive her."
Right, and that's an important question, an important statement and observation is don't. If you're having chest pain, time is muscle. If it is a cardiac-related event, we have the ability with our monitors and our crews to take a look at your heart, to get a good picture of it, and find out what's going on. So it's electrically represented on our monitor, and we take a look at the patterns that we see, and then we're able to communicate with the doctors and get you to an appropriate facility if there is a need. So chest pain is one of those things. It could be a cough, it could be a muscle pull, or it could be your heart, and you don't know. And we're not going to know until we look at you. So it's one of those, certainly call. That's it's an important call to make.
Okay.
Don't drive.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
And it sounds like you do a great job with it too.
We do. We try our best, and we're very lucky. That we do a lot of training, a lot of education, and we work with our physicians, and they train us and work with us. So we're constantly educating ourselves and re-educating ourselves on what it is that we're looking for.
Oh, good, good. And again, would you remind people of the procedure for getting to you?
Sure. If it's an emergency, it's 911. You pick up the phone and call 911. If you're, that's the most common way, and that was the way that I would recommend. And the reason for that is it's the enhanced 911. If for whatever reason you lose communication or contact with us, your number is up on the screen, and they know where to send the resource to. Yep.
Oh. Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I've really learned a lot this morning.
You're
and
welcome.
I hope that the audience members have learned a lot. And that's our show for today. And I will give you my personal medical information is have fun.
Agreed.
Thank you, John.
You've been watching Livin' the Good Life. We always welcome your comments and suggestions for future programs. Call us at 978-921-6017.